So Ryan is the founder and CEO of First Class Realty, entrepreneur, real estate investor, and welcome to the show. And one thing we always start off with is what is that first thing, or what is that one moment in your life that really changed everything for you? That, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to have the normal life that everyone else has. I almost want that grind, almost even that almost pain and suffering of the entrepreneur. What really what was that one moment for you that really, this is what I want to do?
I don't know that I can pinpoint it to one moment. I can more so take you through a journey of how I thought. So, there was a point in time when I was at school and I would buy packs of bubble gum and sell them, right? Like while I was at school, and I made a profit. I could kind of double my money over and over again. Not that that's legal, but I just didn't know what I didn't know at that point in time. But I was at one place making money while I was at the other, meaning I had to go to school when I made money. Then I was in the plumbing industry, and I was at the plumbing industry. I would buy these little Debbie snack cakes, right? Or I would buy sandwiches and make sandwiches, and I would sell them for a profit kind of during the lunch break at work, And so, I had a cooler with sodas and whatever. So I did that as kind of a secondary hustle. And, and those two things kind of hybrided me into the last part of this, which is just essentially that I realized and learned that I could work and make money and like build something at the same time. I could do two things at once. And that's what an entrepreneur really is set up as. That's the thing that shows me that I can't go to the 9 to 5 job because I need to be able to do two things at once. Even if you gave me a job, I get a payroll right now from a company, but I still build other companies on the side, and so like I do multiple things at a time. And I think that's really that's looking back on it would be the things that you would see this evolution of my brain kind of going through that. I just kept coming back to it, kept coming back to it, kept coming back to it. And so ultimately I like the creation of things. I like coming up with models and businesses, and then I like rolling them out, marketing them, and then getting lead conversion, and then, finding if they're the right fit, and then moving forward.
So you were basically a young hustler at a young age. So how did you learn how to really do that?
Which part?
Like just in general, like I know you was probably more trial and error, but how did you really learn? Like, what was your first official business that you started?
The first business, and what's funny is looking back on it, I don't look at business the same as I did then. Like they businesses that we look at today, people think it's a business when they like go and work at something and they can make unlimited money. But we know that's self-employed. That's not a business, right? And so, when I was working selling the drinks and stuff, it wasn't a business. It was self-employed. When I was selling the bubblegum, it wasn't a business. It was self-employed, right? And so, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
What was the business owner.
What was the question though? You asked me the question about the business. Like,
it's like, what was that first business? Like you talk about, hey, this is a self-employed.
So the first business, like entity LLC business, was a plumbing business I set up, but I was still doing the plumbing, right? And so again, it wasn't a business. And so over and over, I did that for years and years. I don't think it was even until more recently that I kind of realized, like, the aha is that when it was selling bubblegum, it was paying $1 and selling it for $2, right? If it was doing sandwiches, it was paying $3, selling them for $8. So it was money, then working for the margin. So which means the money made that amount of money. It translates to everything that we're doing now. So if you run marketing for $5,000 and then you have the sales cost of it, and then you have a $25,000 income, then you have the margin again, right? And it's as many of those as you can do. And then the margin includes the cost of the lead and then the cost of the person for conversion. Every business is that way, right? And then when you fix that box, now you have a business. And so what I realized is I was always in the middle. Every time. So I was setting up 5 different businesses where I was the middle guy. And now what I've learned is I set up and I go, how much will it cost to have the middle guy? The model's got to make sense to spend $1 here, be worth $5 here, and pay the guy in the middle $1 and have a margin of $3, or pay him $1.50, or pay him $2, or whatever the margin is, depends on the cycle of that deal. So anyway, that's it. That's every business. That's all the things that we should be setting up to build businesses. That's when
Yeah, because I remember when I first read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it was like the four quadrants: employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. So even my entrepreneur journey, I tried to skip. I tried to go from E to investor, and it's almost important to go from employee to self-employed to business owner to investor. So what's your big distinguish how do you differentiate a self-employed to a business owner for someone who's kind of maybe a little confused, they're just starting out and they think, hey, I'm actually in a business, but actually you're self-employed?
Yeah, I mean, they define it pretty decent in that book. Like if you can go wait 30 days and the revenue goes up, then you've got a business. So if those sales could go up and somebody's in place to drive in revenue outside of you being there, then that differentiates.
Okay. So what, because I know for me, I started in real estate. Was that kind of like what really drawed you to the real estate as a wealth generator?
For me, real estate it was less about money. I saw people in real estate made money. The guy I went to work for drives up to this church softball game in a Cadillac Escalade. And that was kind of oh, I want one of those kind of things. That's so cool. And it was the idea of that. But really when it came down to it is even knowing that part, I went, wait, so I can have free time and have that. So I like that concept. I'm always very big on freedom. Like I've just learned that it's almost ingrained in me. If you even try and push me to do something else more than I want to do, like I want to do anything that I do because I want to do it. So if I want to buy you a gift, I want to do it because I want to buy it. If I want to say something nice about you, I want to do it. Not because it's your birthday, not because it's this, that, or the other. Like I don't like those preset type things that like culturally drive versus organically, like that's just who you are and how you feel. So I feel the same way work wise and business wise. I want to get up and do the work that I want to do. I want to work with the people I want to work with. Like I energize in that. And I've learned that and it's helped me really build and compound by realizing it about myself and then really just being intentional about it.
So what really gives you that big of a drive? Because it seems like you're really a go-getter. I want to go, 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 go. Is that something like you always had, or like something like, hey, I had to create daily habits? Like, how did you have that almost like work ethic? Is something like your parents instilled in you?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's not even what you think. So my partner faced it here. She said the other thing. She looked over. She's like basically waiting to see what I'm going to answer this question because I already knew I wasn't going to answer it how you're going to think I'm going to answer it, and I think she knew that as well. So, and it's ultimately I don't have that drive. Like it's not that I'm driven to like do and build and have more and more and more. I'm more so driven in the aspect of that what I do, I want to make sure that it's going to have a result, and I want to make sure that it aligns with other people having an opportunity to do it as well, right? So I'm less like how to explain this. I could go sell 100 fidget spinners and make all the money if I can just hurry up and sell 100. I don't want to hurry up and sell 100. I want to get it and set up and build something where 100 can keep selling. It involves a bunch of other people. They're going to go in and do it. So now we build a whole ecosystem. So my hustle is to build that ecosystem and that model, and then move to the next one and move to the next one. And that's what we end up doing. Now there's pros and cons to that, right? Because then what happens is if you're spinning plates and then you leave one plate, then that plate starts slowing down. You need it to keep going and driving. So now you got to go back and spin that plate again and get back to the next one, right? So by building in the systematic side of it as a business, somebody else is in charge of driving that plate. That now has to be designed from the beginning. Who's going to drive that plate spinning when you leave it? And so now that's what my drive is. That's what I do is to hustle and building those. And my whole I'm almost contrary to the current public marketing thing that's going on now, which is like revenues for vanity and profits for sanity, right? I'm sure you've heard that before, right? You've heard it
Yeah.
like everybody is, oh, revenue is a vanity number. And I was like, no, it's not a vanity number. There's a reason why EBITDA matters. There's a reason why they're paying attention to whether revenue's going up or not. All the big businesses understand that. I get it, but on a small level, your profit is only whatever it is you're thinking of you're able to build. So which means if you can build a business that makes $20,000 a month, in the grand scheme of things, you're killing everybody. I mean, the average person, you'd be beating them. You're the business that net profits 20,000 a month. That's great. But if your revenue on that was 20,000 and your net profit was 20,000, Well, guess what? Guess what problem you made? You made that problem. There's no money spent on marketing. There's no salesperson. You didn't create a business. You created a job, but you have high profit. But if you go the other way and you make $20,000 because you made $100,000 in revenue this month, then you made 80,000 of margin that somebody else made money. Marketing was in there, accounting, all of those pieces are there. They're thinking that you're making 100,000 and spending 100,000 to get it, so there's no profit. There are businesses that are doing that, so I think that's the DNA of what they're going against. But if you went from 100,000 next month, you need to be at 200,000, and then 300,000, and then 400,000, and 500,000. Like the revenue has to keep going up. The profit margin should follow. If it's a good model, then that should be. If I can spend $1 and I make $5 of revenue, then I should spend $2 and make 10, and $3 and make 15, right? And it should keep going up. By spending more money on marketing on a good model, my revenue should be going up. Of course, my profit should be there too. But if I can spend $5 to get $5, you're right, that's a bad model. And then revenue would be for vanity.
So it seems like I want to create like almost this wheel that's going to keep continuing to print money. So looking for that vehicle, how do you determine what's a good vehicle to spend your time on that you're going to go create that?
It's a great question that you're asking. And honestly, is what I do is my brain works where I analyze all of these things. Like I'm hesitant to say this, but it's more of a negative that my brain operates the way that it does. And it's worked out to be an advantage to me, but it's a disadvantage because I look at things, and if you tell me a business model and I don't like it, I'm just going to go, okay, and I'm going to move on. And if you bring me another one and I go, oh, I like that, I can see it, then I'm going to be all in and be like, all right, let's go. And so what happens is I run a parallel algorithm in my brain of two different things. The time in which money is going to come in. So someone will say, hey, it's more work to a lot of money coming in. I don't want to go work 8 hours a day to make $5 selling a DVD out on the street corner, right? But I also don't want to run up $1 million bill before we start making any profit either, right? So there's like this conundrum that you're in, but you can't get to $1 million, without doing enough deals or whatever that will be. So now you need all the infrastructure. So how long does it take the infrastructure to build to get to that, right? So you have to be able to see the simplicity of it being able to scale, the movement from marketing, sales, and logistics, right? So those three things. And then more importantly than any of that is this is the second piece. I run through the algorithm of the players because the people running the play will dictate the outcome of that system. The wrong marketing person can't convey the brand, the image, and get the stuff out there to somebody else. You're going to run into a problem, right? Like now you have nobody that's interested in your product, and it could be the most amazing product that there is with the most amazing margin that there was, right? So you have a great business, but now not running the right person. You have the wrong salespeople. You do marketing, someone comes in and they can't sell, and people think of sales as a bad thing, but sales is, I'm selling you this car. If I'm selling you this car, you like these features. If you don't know those features exist, then I did a bad job of selling you by sharing you with what those things are and what the value is, if those values are there, right? And then those logistical side, the people running on the back end. Once that sale is made, you need to provide and fulfill those things to those people. So which means, again, the margin can be great, but if you lose them out the back door because you can't provide the things, then it's the wrong people, and those people end up killing your business. And so I'm running it on, are they capable? Too many people. This is a big one that I stop on. Sorry if I'm going too long, but
No, okay.
But a big one I stop on is like the people that don't delegate, the people that don't want to add other people into the business, the people that say nobody's as good as I am. They bottleneck a business horribly. But it goes back to that question you asked me earlier. You said, hey, you seem like you're hardworking and driven and whatever. I'm like, that would be a bad thing. If I just wanted to go in and do it all myself, make all the money myself, and keep it all myself, that's a bad thing. Because then I can't bring along the right people, set them up in the right lanes, get those guys going, and build a business that can run and function.
Yeah, I agree. So a little bit how I do it is I look for the opportunity, see how long it will take me to scale, and in worst case, I think of the worst possible scenario in my mind that could potentially go wrong, and if I'm okay with that, then I would go forward. And then the third piece would be finding that person, which I think might be the hardest job, is finding those right people that would almost be those COOs. how do you identify those people, and how do you identify those like the traits for? I always heard recruiting is finding the right people is a hard, uh, difficult thing to do.
Well, okay. So there's two parts to this. The one is I've been fortunate that somehow I don't even know how it is. Like I don't know whether they were just already the right people or we developed them to being the right people. But I already have an amazing team around me, right? Like I mean, you got the right accounting team around you, got the right marketing people around you got the right sales people around you got the right logistic people, you got the right attorney around you. Like that team around you that you build is huge in everything else you're going to do because it can overlap over to every company. And that's kind of what we've done through things, meaning we know that we can take a model if it works and we already have the right people. So we're going to go in and run that play. There was a second thought I thought of that what you asked. What was the question one more time?
I was talking about identifying those right people and then
right,
finding.
The second part, sorry, the second part I just want to say before I forget is the second part is then you're going to attract those right people, right? Because as you do marketing and you present the idea of whatever it is, they wake up that day with waiting for an opportunity like what you're offering them, right? Like there's a reason somebody wakes up and they're a school teacher today and somebody else is a barista working somewhere doing coffee. They see what they're doing as their contribution to the world. So with whatever you're doing, your marketing should attract those people that want their contribution to be in the world, that business that you're doing, right? Like that's their play. So they align with it.
So just to recap, so let's say you're creating your first class realty. What got you the idea? Like, hey, I want to create this real estate business, and then what made you want to franchise from there? Because those are two different things.
Yeah. So ultimately, I got into real estate, and it was like what happens in your brain is everything comes down to a clarity, and you can only see but so clear, so far out with whatever's in your brain. But as you go along, the play just develops more and more. And so for me, remember the clarity was I wanted freedom, and I wanted to drive that Cadillac Escalade that guy had. Right, like those were the things I wanted. But I got in and realized I was working more hours than I was at the other place, and then it took more money. And then by putting more money in, I couldn't even afford the Cadillac Escalade. It would take me a lot longer to get to that. And so, I had that kind of limiting thing that went on, right? And so, sorry, man, I keep going into one thing and I forget what the other thing was. Sorry, one more time.
First class realty.
So why did we take it that way? So what happens? I saw what the guy was doing with the team and what he's doing with real estate, and then I said, okay, well the next thing is I want to open my real estate office, and so I did that. I ended up with a mentor, and that mentor coached me and helped me get to opening up more offices, and so they were corporate offices that we were running. But I started to see what it was going to cost me to set them all up and to have the the payroll and the employees. Because remember, now you got to have the right people running that system to run this evolution of growth, and you're dependent on those. And so you had to find those people, attract them, and add them in, and then get them up and going. So it was a slower roll. And so a book called E-Myth Revisited. You ever read that one?
No, I have not. I have to add that to the list.
Yeah, phenomenal book. And I almost recommend it to everybody that's in business. And so by reading that book, though, you kind of you look at this model, right? And so you start modeling it, which when someone says a model you in the real estate business, like my first thing was like, is it 70-30? Is 100%? That's a model. But then you also have like a franchise model or a corporate model, right? And so those models still apply. So there's levels to models. And so when you read this, you'll start to see that, and you'll see these models. And so by seeing that, we ran into COVID at the same time of doing that. It helped us kind of go, okay, now we've got a new model. We can run virtual, we can scale nationwide and add on and add on. So we can keep growing it. They can run it skinnier than they would if they were running their own. If they were just paying as a real estate agent, it's cheaper to own a franchise than it was to be a real estate agent in some levels, right? So that was a huge advantage to us, right? Because they didn't need an office. They could run virtually. They didn't need the employees. They can kind of grow and scale. And we only charge $150 transaction. And so, but with that, because it was so small, we had to grow really, really rapidly for the money to be able to be enough to pay the payroll and those things that are there. So that's how we saw and how we evolved, why we went into that model from corporate to franchise. We saw we could grow and scale a lot faster. We gave leaders the opportunity to be their own business owners instead of employees in the corporate side of the model, which is not a right or wrong. Somebody wants a model where they can make a percentage running the corporate store, and somebody wants all of it by putting up the money and running their own and then saying, hey, I'm going to bet on me, right? So we're okay with either of those.
Okay. So mainly y'all's differentiator is, hey, virtual office, flat rate, and then you can kind of like, depending on how the ownership you want to be, if you want to be like run as like an employee or being a business owner. So that's
Well,
kind of y'all's big.
they run that with corporate stores. We'd be putting them on a payroll and paying them a percentage. Or then if you went in and bought a franchise, you could hire me as your manager of your office, and then now you're getting a percentage because I'm running. Because remember, it's got to be a business, so which means you're not running the real estate office anymore. So somebody has to do the job and the tasks that are in that business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
100 of them by hiring 100 people, and you own them. You own 100 McDonald's. You don't want to be in the McDonald's running it every day. Everybody understands that. For whatever reason, we get into a real estate franchise, everyone wants to run it themselves. And I'm like, well, no, you're not supposed to run it yourself. You're supposed to hire someone in to doing that. And then they're going to say, well, I want to own my own, so won't somebody else want to own their own? I go, no, everybody's not wired that way. Some people go, I want to be able to come in, run the company, and when I leave, I'm done, or whatever. You're the owner of the business. I don't want to be the owner. And other people are like, hey, I want to be the owner, and I want to take the lumps either way, because in a job, if the business doesn't make profit in the month, you still get paid. If you're a business owner and it doesn't make a profit in the month, you pay to work there, right? That's what we do as an entrepreneur, that we look at it differently than an employee does. I like to bet on that. It won't go to the negative. I'm going to drive the profit because I'm going to drive the revenue, like we talked about earlier.
So, setting up the systems and all that. What is a key thing when it comes to scaling that you've seen in businesses? Because like it's easier said. What's the word for it? Easier to say than actually to do is say, hey, we'll scale this business. What's some of the key things that require for you to continue to scale, grow? Is there like a one trick thing? Like how does that?
Yeah, it really is, and at the same time, I say this a million times, but people just don't listen to me. So I just do it, and I keep doing it, and then I'm like, well, I'm just still doing it, and the equation is still always the same, and it will always be the same, and it goes all the way back to the bubble gum. The bubble gum costs $1, and I could sell the packet of it for $2. I had to invest some money to have some money that I could make money. Fine, you want to roll into something else? You want buyer leads as a real estate agent? How much money do you spend to get a buyer lead, and how much do you make if you sell them? Pretty easy equation, right? That's it's a game, right? So if I want to sell franchises, spend an amount of money, lead comes in, they buy a franchise, there's a margin that's in between. If I want to run a real estate office, spend the money, real estate agent comes in, I make the margin on their transaction, right? Like it's always the same. It's marketing is over everything. Over everything. However much money, time, and energy you put into your marketing will dictate how many people are going to raise their hand and become customers of yours. Right? Every business is different, right? But what I love, and this is why I was explaining this on the other side, is like, I'm not looking at building one business this big. I'm looking at building a business that's this big from 20 companies down here. Holding company owns all these companies. When this company adds in this company, this company, this company, they're all growing at the same time. Real estate franchise buys our call center leads, wholesales properties, uses our hard money company, closes out the title company, relist the property back with their brokerage, right? Pretty easy, right? I mean, you've seen it a million times going on. We just built the infrastructure for all those pieces to be there. And on top of it, you add in the DSCR companies. Now, if you want to own a title company, a mortgage company, borrow hard money from us, get the wholesale or any of that, then have a real estate franchise to be able to add agents into that ecosystem and structure, you can have all of that. So that's what we built. That's what's set up. We went and raised all the capital to say, if you want to buy properties, we're making $150 when they do a deal. It's not like we're going to get rich doing that. We make money when they go borrow money from us. They're like, hey, I found a house, got 200 grand of equity, and I don't have enough money to take it down. We need 300 grand. All right, here you go. Here's 300 grand. And then we wire it over at the closing, and they close on the property and sell it. And they make a profit selling the property. They use their agents to find them, flip them, close them at the title company. Maybe they DSCR it out and keep it. Like, that's really what's going on that everybody doesn't fully understand, because they may see marketing from me about DSCR or IFC or our Fortis title company. We're trying to convey all of the pieces, which is somewhat difficult for people to all the way understand. And at the same time, it's because they're only thinking of one business that they're going to work and go on over and over. It's no different if I was going to be the type of person that said, hey, I'm selling the sandwiches, but I own the bread and the bologna and the cheese and the mayonnaise company too that sells it to the company that sells all the sandwiches.
Yeah, I think one of the great things that you're doing for your company that I think a lot of people can take notes of is your company is completely vertically integrated from the customer up. Like your loans, franchise, sales, hold, all the way up. So what really got you to think, hey, I'm gonna try to make my company vertically integrated and we're gonna sell all the way up?
Yeah, so what happened is while I was working on growing the franchise business with the franchise team, I had partners that were doing the wholesaling stuff, and then other people came in. We were outsourcing to the call centers, and so what we realized is everything we were outsourcing, we could bring internal and run all of these. They were all connected because someone was owning a franchise while running a wholesaling business using an outsourced call center, and then they needed hard money. So then we added in hard money to then that equation. And then what we realized is we had built out a model by doing that everyone could replicate and do. And they can do a lot of that stuff with or without the franchise. The franchise is just another play if you want to hire a manager who hires agents, who manages that to run the deals, to get, because every agent in is then another hard money deal or another mortgage deal or another title deal or another cash flow in that business. And so revenues are coming in. One transaction makes revenue times 5 companies. See, that's
Yeah.
what I was telling you is revenue matters because one deal bringing in 5 revenues, even if it's 1,000 here, 6,000 here, 7,000 here, and 10,000 here, that's a lot of revenue from one person to bring in on one transaction. Now, how do you get 100 of them, 1,000 of them, 1,000,000 of them?
So and you're like, see, you're definitely playing chess, and when people are out, other people are playing checkers. But what is one of the mistakes you've made getting there to that where you are now? What's some of the couple of the big mistakes that and pitfalls that looking back you probably should have done something differently?
Well, I know, I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, kind of going up through doing it. But the bigger mistakes was not doing the other stuff faster. And I mean, well, I mean, you can look at it as like, should you have marketed here, said this, done this, hired this? I mean, I'm sure you could play Monday morning quarterback to looking at all those things. But I mean, if you really just look at it, it's not doing it fast enough because I was in a job or a self-employed until I got the other things vertically integrated. Then it became a business because I couldn't be in 5 McDonald's at a time. So somebody opens a McDonald's, it's not the issues they made not getting the fries out of the oil or whatever it was there or not marketing it up there. It was that they didn't open the other 4 sooner. Does that
Yeah,
make sense? Like I know
yeah, it
the
does.
answer you're thinking is running that business. How could I have made that one better? No, that perfection was actually the killer of all the profit I would have made on the other 4. That's the mistake that we made is not doing it fast enough. And you just once you get clear on it, again, remember I said you're clear and then you get clear and clear, you just can't get there fast enough. Like this explosion in your brain goes off and oh my gosh, I've got it. And I've had so many of those, but it was just like that explosion. I wasn't rapidly racing toward the next explosion because I was too busy running that play.
So when let's say you're growing and scaling your company, you're looking at growth, growth, growth. Is what do you look at to protect your downside? Hey, I need to have a certain amount of reserves in order to get to this next step. Like, what do you when you calculate growth? Do you do to protect your downside?
Um, I think I mean there's just, it's a broad question in such a big array of things, but at the end of the day, I mean I guess expenses would be a part of what you'd be looking at. I've had the experience of looking at kind of like a tax business, right? A tax business may run 3 or 4 months out of the year and it's paying rent for 12 months, right? So it's got to make enough money in those 3 or 4 months to cover that amount of money. So if you look at anything in a quarterly basis, then you drive in enough revenue and enough profit, then anything you lost in a subsidy, a following quarter is really net against that profit. And so structuring everything to be able to be skinny quickly if needed is really a superpower, right? And so, we set up things that are a per user setup. So, which means if the per user goes up, then we're great. If the per user goes down, we're great. And so, there's always that setup in any of it. I don't go out there and buy bulk bubble gum to sell at school for $10 million and go, well, if the market shifts, I'm stuck with 10 million in bubble gum. I buy the bubble gum that's needed for whatever that day is, and that kind of principle has always really been there. So I I think we're set up okay for whatever that is. Doesn't mean we don't make shifts and changes, but again, we don't fix the problem by shrinking down. We fix the problem by doubling down, if you will. So
Yeah.
instead of us, we don't want to save $5,000 in expenses. We want to spend $5,000 in marketing. Like that's how we would solve that problem, because more people just don't know we exist, and that's really how we'll focus on it. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's cracks or exposures in any of it, but I don't know how much you can solve for any of it. If a key player goes down, I mean, you got to solve the problem for that key player. The only alternative is to never have a key player, and you are the key player. And I don't think that's an option either.
So as that CEO, something that I struggle with, so I run an accounting franchise and a couple other businesses, is to figure out what's priority and what's noise. How do you differentiate hey, what task I need to focus in on, and then everyone else asking certain things? How do you determine what's noise from you as like the CEO and founder?
I mean, I usually will generate it somewhat back to revenue. You've got a revenue thing, you've got a culture thing. There's kind of a couple different pieces of that. The culture a lot of times is whatever you're going to allow or whatever you're going to succumb to. So which means if there's noise, if there's a complaint about this, that, or whatever, you really need to decide if that needs the energy or not. Because a lot of times driving in more business, revenue, or redirect is almost better. And I correlate it in business to sometimes like we're like kids. If you just redirect me to the lollipop over here, I'm going to stop crying about the toy that Jimmy didn't share with me, right? Like, because I have something more positive to focus on, I don't need to focus on the negative. If not, we could spend 3 days focusing on he didn't share his teddy bear with me and why that was important and why it wasn't important. And that's the simplicity of it a lot of times is really, that's noise. It's not going to drive anybody. Nobody's going to be happy in that situation.
Yeah.
Let's go lead to something more positive and focus on that. And that, some may look at it, well, hey, you've maneuvered out of that in this way, shape, or form. But it doesn't mean the lollipop's not still what they want. That is what they want. That's what they're going after. They just couldn't focus on it because they were so in the weeds of something that was not that important. But you can't always say it that way. Hey, this is not going to get you where you want. You're right, and they're wrong, but we didn't really solve a problem, right? So let's solve the problem. Let's lead to where we're going, and just try and be right as much as you possibly can.
So how big is because you mentioned culture, how big is culture in your businesses?
I think we have a unique culture right now. And we're disrupting, but it disrupts us as well, because everyone's not going to understand or see where you're going and what's going on. But I think that's been with any company that's driving. So we're opening title companies with people that are not just at first class real estate. We're having wholesaling deals with people that are not just at first class real estate. We're not setting one company to be determined by what the others do because they've done what they've always done. It's there for them. They can do that if they want. And then at the same time, it may not be for them. They want to run the model that they're running, which is perfectly fine. But I think, in real estate industry, we know and understand it's ever changing. And you have to stay out in front. So you're constantly disrupting yourself. Even what we did with bringing in a 100% commission model, what we did from going 100% to opening up a franchise, we disrupted ourselves. We took our high producing partner agents that were paying us a split, turned them to 100% agents and let them build a team. We took people that were paying in a transaction fee into the brokerage and made it a small transaction fee and let them open a franchise. Like, we're always disrupting ourselves to set back to go. But then if we didn't, we'd still have 100 agents in an office that were on a split that were coming and going. Does that make sense? If we didn't open up the opportunity for growth for them to add on more, and at the same time, there are people that moved on and went and run a team that went, this isn't for me, and went back to whatever it was. There are people that stayed on the partner model that just said, I never even wanted to do that. And they thought it would be a distraction to opening up something else. Somebody else said, hey, I thought you were going to be the team leader and brokerage owner forever, and now I'm opening up franchises and running. And so I've got to answer to the purpose that's in me, which is growing and scaling and adding more and more. And so I think that will always have an impact on culture. And I cannot let anyone hold me back from what I'm capable of. And at the same time, I bet there's blind spots. I got them, you got them, we've all got them. I probably could have said it better, could have done it better, could have delivered it better, could have rolled it out better, could have thought through more. Yes, absolutely. We all could. And And that's just how you're navigating and how you work through that. Um, Ideally, in any company, you have to get to the place where you're growing and so big, you don't know everybody in the company. You don't know
Yeah.
what's going on with all of them, which problematically leaves a communication gap. And that's a culture. Why are they doing that? Because what this person thinks is important and this person is going and running an operation that they think isn't, that could be a problem. And usually it's a clarity, it's a communication. How do we convey that information? And they go, oh, I get it now. And then when they get that, that is the best part of the culture. Because then that rolls all the way through everything that's going on.
So the culture is from top down. Like you have to lead that culture, and like almost like your mindset and how you carry yourself almost multiplies throughout your company.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. In ours, is we've always used that. First class real estate was set up as kind of a bold culture. We made it even we're making like fonts and different things like that. We want to be tech based, we want to be innovative, and we want to be bold. And I know a lot of those words can be said, and they're like cool hype words, that you go and market it, and we go do it. The problem with it is all of those things come with a problem, right? Like, I mean, if you're bold, somebody can be offended. And at the same time, the people that want to be after something bold going, no, you believe in what you believe. And when you believe and you go after it, I think a lot of people admire and respect when you're going after something you believe in that you've thought through and say, I mean, we got to here. We were being bold before and we did it. We can't stop now. I mean, it's always changing. You got to keep pushing and keep doing more, without disrupting a winning strategy.
So how do you think like if you had to give people for advice, is a lot of people get complacent and don't I guess chase their dreams or say they can't do it. What would be your piece of advice for them to chase their dreams? Because a lot of people think like, oh, I can't do this, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm not this.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword because some people they stay complacent, not trying other new things, and they don't add in new that they really should. And some people they kind of go the other way and they want to add on too much too fast, right? And they add on too much too fast and they can't manage it. Meaning they were capable of doing more, but when they did it, they mismanaged by getting they got that clarity, but they tried to go at it too fast. You're going back to the question that you're asking, is that mindset is key. I mean, it really is. And I don't know how to convey. I don't know, I don't know how to get people to go back and rewire their DNA. But everything it is that they think came from some type of trauma, some type of belief, some type of thing, something someone said to them. And you think you're just going to go and say, "Oh, well, just jump off the diving board," and they're going to do it, and you're going, "No, I saw a picture where somebody broke their leg doing this, and so I'm never going to jump off a diving board." Right? Somebody said they had a breakup and they're never getting married again. Right? Like so, those kind of things go on, and what's so important is really taking the time to go back and identify that and heal and build from that and try something new. One of those things that was really a big thing for me was I didn't even realize you would have never known, but I was actually really limited in belief system. I had the same problem. I mean, I don't want to try that. I don't want to take that risk. I don't want to go do this. I went out and I started doing this cold plunging thing. And once I started doing this, and I know it was a big fad of the things, but I have one. I mean, in Virginia, like we talked about before we got on here is, it was cold. I would go and get in the pool right there and it was just exhilarating, but I didn't want to do it. I was scared. I had every reason to say, I can go lay back in bed. I can go do it. But after I started doing that as a habit of pushing myself through, everything else was easy. Every decision, anything scary you were going to ask me to do. If you said, Ryan, go eat the gum off the ground, I don't know that I really do this, but I'd be like, eating gum off the ground all of a sudden didn't seem that difficult anymore, right? So when people are complacent, I'm not good enough, or these other things, they really just need something to disrupt them, disrupt their thought pattern, push through. And it could be something like cold plunging. It could be going on a diet. It could be going to the gym. It could be there's something they can do to break the cycle that they're on. They're staying up late. They're out drinking. That's actually making them tired, which leads to them doing an energy drink, which makes them erratic, which leads to. So there's just this whole spiral of things. It's not as simple as they're complacent. They're not complacent. There's a trauma. There's something that went on, something they have to break. to be able to get out of that. And that's usually what I end up doing. That's why I kind of get surrounded by people that almost always do more and more, because I don't know how my brain just quickly hits the button to this thing. Someone may say something and they'll say it in like a humble way, demoralizing themselves. Like, do you really think that bad of yourself? And they're like, no, I just feel like it makes everybody else feel better. And I said, so it's false humility. You're not really humble. So. And they're like, oh, I never really thought about it like that. I'm like, yeah, I know. So you don't have to be smaller so someone else feels better. But somewhere along the lines, they pick that up, right? But I will say something like that, and then that leads them to somewhere else where somebody else doesn't dive in on that. And I try and do that over and over again, because I want to leave everyone kind of better off than they were, because I know my journey of growth, then that means they can be on this journey of growth. And if I can have a part of that, I'm ecstatic about that.
I'm glad you mentioned it, because I do think that's huge. From like something to like intentional suffering, from like it could be CrossFit, it could be the gym, it could be cold plunge, sauna, some kind of suffering that like forces you to get out of your comfort zone. I feel like is what the biggest limitations for people is. Most people believe they always set their bar of this, but they could do so much more. So getting out of that limited belief, I think, is really hard to do. So I think you hit the nail on the head for that. It's just like almost just go and try. I mean, what's the worst can happen? You can always go back on the couch. You can always do this, or like you can always go back to that job.
Well, no, it works. Usually, it's like this. My mind says the opposite of this, but it's like, well, what if I don't? If I don't do it, I get what I'm getting right now. If I'm okay getting what I get right now, then that's being complacent. If I'm okay with doing that, but I don't want to say that, but that's really what my decision making would be, right? On the flip side is what they're saying is, I don't want to lose what I already have. I don't want to lose this comfort that I have. And I'd say staying where I'm at is worse than losing the comfort. They're like, I don't want to spend $5,000 on marketing, because what if it doesn't work? Then you're going to get what you've always got. I don't want to go do this play right here. Well, then you're going to get what you've always got. I don't want to open this new company. I don't want to add this new partner. I don't want to do this new business. Whatever that is, then you're always going to get. I like it to go do it and then go, I don't expect it to work right away. I'm going to blow $5,000 marketing something and it's not going to work. And I'm going to be like, I lost $5,000. I got to go back to work to go make that amount of money. And I almost negotiated in my head that if I kept the $5,000, I was going to pay $2,500 of that in taxes anyway. So I'd be better to bet the $5,000 to make $25,000. It's all gambling. It's like, it feels like gambling, but it's like, but you can control the outcome. The lead comes in, then I got to answer the phone. If I'm going to bet on it, I'm going to bet on me answering the phone. I'm going to bet on the system. Now you're forced to just get better and better and better. And that is so fun. That is fun. People look back on it and go, man, how do you get to this level? And I'm like, by fixing it over and over and over again.
Yeah, so I think the process in being good at one thing is the same process in being great in everything. It's the same process.
It's how you do everything.
Exactly. So like I feel like from a success, if one person has achieved that level of like master maybe in sports or something related, they've realized that that's the same process with everything. So usually they're good at everything. But getting someone where they can kind of see that to take that chance on themselves, I think is the biggest limited factor, and whether or not they're successful or not. And that's why I love sports, because sports is like, it doesn't matter how hard you can train, you could still potentially lose. And it's the same thing with business. You can do everything right and still lose. So you have to enjoy the process, have to enjoy that mindset, just continuing getting better. So just shifted a little bit from like, I know you're big into real estate. What are you seeing from the real estate market right now? Do you see like Trump always talks about the interest rates are going to go down. What do you think about the real estate market as a whole right now?
I'll answer your question about that, but I look at more things in a macro side of things, and meaning I don't know all the pieces there are. I'm not like the smartest one that there is when it comes to this, but like I do look at the stocks and the bonds and the interest rates and the war parts of it and the all the aspects, that all the sectors, if you will, right? And I kind of just look at it in this global aspect, and I have one big overlay, And I have one core belief system that I'm applying right now to all of it, and I'm sink or swim on it, right? Like I mean, it's either going to bust me really badly, and I'm going to ask for a job later, and or it's going to win really, really big. And I'm not really forcing anybody to believe what I believe, but again, it's not based on. I'm not looking at real estate like this, like oh today it's up, today tomorrow's down. Like it will do like this. Oh, it's going down. Oh my gosh, how far is the down? Whatever that is. I go, it's going down. I'm going to buy it low. I'm going to buy it low, and I'm going to buy it lower than I think it's going to go. Well, why would I do that? I'll have to wait because I think the down is coming back up, and it's a blip, it's a dip, and like it would be a stock or any other market. It really doesn't matter. You watch oil, it goes up, it goes down. You watch gold, it goes up, it goes down. Everything is a commodity or an aspect of this, and so real estate is not much different than any of that. So I'm more so going hard into doing it. If you knew it was going to keep going up and it dipped, what would you do? Would you buy a little bit of it and say, well, let's be conservative, right? And so whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is, I'm betting on it to go up. And the reason I say that is I understand how much money came in. I know how much money they created. I know which money went on the balance sheet. I've watched them deplete it and what they do, and I go in and I research this. And so when money's taken off, it's going to go down. When money's added on, it's going to go up. It's pretty simplistic in that case. If money goes up in the stock market or these other things, you can't take money out of stocks without having a taxable event. So then the government is betting on everyone making certain moves to take taxes out of the equation. You sell your business, you pay taxes. You sell your house, you're paying taxes, right? You see all of this is going on, right? So that's what's going on. And then what happens when you have to pay taxes? You got to go back to work to drive to get more money to pay the taxes, right? This is everybody's on this cycle. And so I'm watching that. But what he just opened up with real estate with the 100% depreciation in this, potentially plus dropping the interest rates, if that's the case, this is a no-brainer. But I'm going to give you the global aspect. 2020 to 2029. I would even segment to 2028. It's all going to go like this. It's just going up. So that's why in 2022 it went dip. I said buy. Then it went back up, right? And then I'm sure there's going to be another ebb and a flow. So even if somebody watched this, they say, oh, he was wrong. It dipped. It went horribly down, yada, yada. And I said, I'm saying it's going to end in 2029. That's where it will go. 1920 to 1929. It's the exact same systematic cycle that went on. All that money dumped in. They had to go off the gold standard, and they changed that with the federal exchange, right? So now we're going to go into probably some type of crypto monetization, or I don't know. I don't have the answer because I don't know what it is. I can only guess with the pieces that are on the table. But all that being said is I understand how the cycle of all of it goes. Money doesn't exist. It's created. They make it as pieces of paper, and it's a goat to get you to move and whatever that is to move on. But anyway, all that real estate is buy it while everybody's selling it. Buy as much as you can, and then if it goes down, refinance it. But there's going to be movement. Commercial, if their notes come due, it's different, right? Somebody's got a 3% 30-year mortgage, that's going to stay here. If you got a bunch of commercial and they got 5-year notes and those are coming to an end, and now the rates are way up here and they can't redo it for the cash flow, they've got to sell it less the appreciation. If it went from $2.5 million to $5 million and they've got to sell it, anything over $2.5 million, they made a profit on, right? So, of course, they got to pay back the depreciations or all the other stuff that's there. So there's going to be a shift, or they're just going to bite the bullet and refinance it and then change their rental rates or whatever those are. Those rates went up as well. So it's all sector based. I think industry wise, everything's going to keep going up until at least 2028. So we've got 3 more years of it going up. So if you see it go down, I'd be picking it up. Real estate, cryptos. I mean, shoot, crypto just went up just before we went. It went shot like 122. But I've been saying the whole time. I've been saying this since 2020 because I saw how much money they pumped in. I saw in 2011, I was talking to my business partner about this before. I said, I'm 45. I just happen to have been through all these cycles. I went through 2008 and 9. I went through 2001 when we had the World Trade Center stuff. All the stocks went all down, and then all the real estate, they dumped all the money in for the war stuff, and then drove it up, right? Like that. you see the cycle over and over, and now you know what to do. It's just the problem is as we get older, it's like, man, I wish I had done that then, but I didn't know then what I know.
So man, I wish I would have bought way more houses back then.
Right. And then it's the same as somebody told me, they said, buy a house, don't ever sell it, And so they tell you that and you're like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, old man, right? And because they're 45 and you're 20 and you know it all, right? And so it's the same game. That's like, buy it, don't sell it. Buy it, and then have a tenant coming in. 10 houses paying $3,000 a month is $30,000 a month. If rents go up, you keep making more. If the interest rate goes down, you refi, you make even more cash flow, right? So it's like, I understand it. It's such a high level that I guess I'm not as worried about it. I know I was one of the biggest REO agents in the country for Fannie Mae. So which means I saw all of that. I saw how they handled it. We fixed and flipped all those. Houses still sold. It's not like it's going to stop. The best price and the best condition are going to sell. Be that. If you're putting a house on the market and it's in bad condition and you're at the top price, every agent is shaking their head like, why are they not listening to me? This isn't going to sell like this. And they're right? So they're trying to advise people, but they don't listen. I'm telling everybody to go buy a house at a discount as much as you can. I hope they listen. And that's just how it works.
So I think one thing I thought was what's interesting, you talked about buying and hold real estate. I always tell people I think the easiest way to become a millionaire is just buy 4 houses, house hack all 4 for $250,000. Wait 30 years, you're a millionaire. So and one thing you could always bet on the government to do is print money. So that's why real estate is always a great asset, because it's always going to print money. I don't care what administration, if you're Trump's brand new bill or you're Biden, they're always going to print money, and real estate's always going to appreciate because of that.
That's right.
So just last piece of advice for our listeners trying to get into real estate, trying to get into business. What would be your last piece of advice for them to start a business, get out of their own head, and take that chance?
I'm at a conundrum to answer this question because it's not for everybody. So I don't want to give some cookie cutter answer that's kind of based on it's like I could leave them with a warm and fuzzy, like, oh yeah, go do it, just be the guy, show up every day, and at the same time, that isn't what's best for everybody. Everybody shouldn't just quit, go open a real estate business and go do this, right? They need to really do an assessment of themselves, right? And I would do the assessment and be real honest with yourself. Am I going to do what I say I'm going to do? Am I going to follow through? Am I going to do this when it's hard, even when I don't think it's hard? Am I going to have a mentor? Am I going to listen to somebody? Am I going to follow advice? Am I coachable, right? I would be looking through those things because they're all detriments that you can control. And if you have those things and they're good and you like the assessment of it, then you're a stock you should bet on, right? Like that, you're deciding, am I a stock? Now, if you have limiting beliefs, you said, look, I tried 5 other businesses and they all failed, right? It wasn't the businesses, it was us, right? And so we've got to, that's not the end either, right? That's okay, I failed. I either win or I learn, right? And so then we've got to take that learning aspect and fix those things. Then we can go in and make that dive into it, right? Like there's so much money to be made in real estate. The fact you can do 1 transaction in a month to make 10 grand, like that, the average income is like what, 50, 60 grand? Like that's the average income. If you sell 5 houses, you have to find 5 people buying $300,000 houses to make $9,000 times every single transaction. Forget everything else. You asked me the question earlier about getting rid of the noise and the other things. If you can get rid of the noise, if you're the type that goes squirrel and goes over here and you go away from, I have to market, I have to be able to find 10 people that are paying $10,000 to buy a house. If I can't structure, would you give me $10,000 for a house that had $200,000 in equity? You wouldn't give me $10,000 for a house?
I would.
And I think most people would, right? And they may say, hey, I don't have the money. I say, well, we got a hard money company over here. You can do it. If somebody is not buying a house that has $200,000 in equity right now, well, then you tell me what you're doing every day when you wake up. I don't know what you can do that is better than making $200,000 a day buying a piece of real estate somebody else is going to pay off for you, right? But that's a mindset thing. That's an understanding the industry and the economics. And so I say that to say, Can you find 5 people that would do that? Then this may be the industry for you, right? And if you're going to do that and you want to do it, this is why I got into it. I already owned 3 houses before I got into real estate. Me getting in was so I could get the houses and buy them. You know what my biggest problem was? I stopped buying them. I started running a real estate business and selling franchise instead of buying houses. I was like, I'm helping everybody else grow their business. I need to be buying real estate. By buying real estate, people said, I like that guy. I want to go in and buy a franchise and do what he's doing, right? So I realized by me doing what I'm telling everybody that they should be doing and then documenting it, people are then going, hey, I want to go do it. It can be done, right? And do I need to be in the industry? Maybe, maybe not. It just depends on where your level of entry is. And you can do a call center and get call center leads. You can borrow hard money. You can do our wholesaling program. You can buy a franchise. You can just get a real estate license. I mean, there's all different ways to get into doing it. But again, I'm saying all this to say there's probably some baggage. There's probably some negative thoughts that go on in your head. I got the worst memory in the world. I have screwed up probably more business than anybody you know. I just can't remember, right? I just forget because I just only go focus. I'm telling you, it's crazy. I'm crazy. Like, it's crazy how quickly I can go on and do that because that rubber man bounce back thing is like, that is what matters more than the failure, right? And I tell you this all. If you're playing basketball with me and I kick the ball out of bounds and we fight about that for the rest of the game, then it was irrelevant. Then the game was irrelevant. It was only that one play that mattered. You can't think and operate like that. If you're operating like that and you know that that's you, if you got a problem for everything, I'm like, this may not be the industry for you. And I care more that they fix that problem than I care what industry. They can go be a doctor, a lawyer, sell real estate, used cars, whatever you want. I don't care what you want. If you go fix that, then their life is better. And that's what I'm excited about. That's the message I want people to be able to take away is like, let's just get better. And then we will combine and do massive amounts of things. We're not fighting the traumas and the disbeliefs and all the other junk that goes on with that just holds you back. Because then you're holding your partner back and then you're holding your family back and, all this other stuff.
So I'm in the accounting industry, and one thing we're always wondering is how do you find good partners for you building your business, finding a legal team, accounting team, all these other partners. How do you find those people?
Well, I know through the journey of things, we've kind of just you date people a little bit, right? You do a little bit of business and you're going to figure it out. And what I found is I usually know within 30 days of any type of interaction with somebody, what the DNA is, right? Like, I mean, do they do what they say they're going to do? Are they going to do this? And every time, almost without fail, that I sugarcoated whatever the response was, the business partnership doesn't work out well, right? They don't do what they're supposed to do. They don't listen. They don't follow through. They don't carry their end of the bargain, right? The bigger problem that you'll run into is it's not even finding those people. It's if everyone in the group is trying to be the best value, you're trying not to be the weakest link, right?
Yeah.
And if that becomes the culture of what it is, if you're in the accounting side, don't be the weakest link. The P&Ls are there, the accounting is there, the numbers are right. You don't got to check my math. When I send it to you, it's right? Like if somebody gets the sales, it's like, I got the sales, we're getting the sales, we're doing this. All right, we got the logistical system that's in there. All right, we need the attorney. Are the attorney's too busy? He's off somewhere else. Well, now we don't have a decision to make. We need to review something, and now we're moving slow. And if that person isn't part of the core of what's going on. So it was harder in the beginning. And at this point now, it's unfair. I found it's unfair. I couldn't get people to come into my team meetings or whatever it is. Now people pay to come to our meetings to get in front of the people that we built and we have around us, right? They're paying to go when before I couldn't afford to pay the bills. I couldn't get anybody to come in, right? And now all of a sudden, everyone will come in. So now at this point, when you're doing it, they're vying for the value that you bring. So which means I think the people that don't do a good job don't even ask. Does that make sense? Like they don't even come to you anymore. The A players just start coming. They're like, no, we're the best accounting. We're going to do it. We're not going to mess up our relationship with you because what happens is mistakes are going to happen. Things are going to happen. But the A players, they're like, my bad. I'll fix it. I got you. And it's in everything.
Yeah, exactly.
We're flipping a house. The guy ends up mixing up the roof color. He says, that's fine. I'm going to discount you on this other thing. We're like, I don't even that big of a deal. We're going to do a lot more roofs together, right? Like, You just work together. You don't make any type of friction. He wants to do more and more roofs, so he's willing to do whatever it is. We want a good guy does what he says, and he's going to move on, and that department is covered. We don't have to think about it anymore. He's not gouging us on prices and taking too long. If that department's good, I'm not vying for somebody else. I'm good. Let's go build the rest of the team. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So for people that wanted to learn more about you, learn more about what you do from First Class, running your real estate Ryan on Instagram, where can they find more about you?
Yeah, I mean, we try and run a lot of the stuff that we're doing through the Real Estate Ryan Instagram. So I have that, and then I have a Facebook page. So those two things kind of keep everything going. You can get free content, free information that's there. And then from there, obviously, there's different tabs or links if you want to follow kind of a trail down. Hey, I need to borrow hard money, or hey, I want to open a title JV, or I want to open a real estate franchise. All of those go through segmented things, and then you kind of go through a education process to see if it's even something that you're interested in. We do all that education and all that stuff for free. So I mean, you can glean any of it you want. What we like, what our favorite part is people will like to go in and figure out what it is we're doing, or how does it work, or what are these numbers. Those are the people we like to work with, because I'm guilty of being on the other side. I didn't know how much a mortgage loan officer made. So if you said, let's open a mortgage company, don't I need to know how much revenue would come in from a transaction, right? Or I want to get into real estate, but I didn't know how the commissions work, right? So you got to be inquisitive to learn that stuff. But what I like is when they go learn it. How does the title JV work? How does the real estate office work? There's a catch to whatever it is, and at the end of the day, the models always work when the math works, right? And so if it costs this amount of money, you're in accounting. I mean, so you understand this. If I can pay an accounting person $6,000 to be in my brand new company a month to be my accounting person, I haven't sold the first thing, I have no revenue, and you're $6,000 off the bat. I can pay you $500 and grow with you as my business grows, which would be a better model for me.
Growing with them.
Right. So everybody at the end gets to that. That's what they see is, wait, I'd rather pay $500 and grow with you than to have all the expense on myself and have to get above it to win. You're right. At some point in time, you could do enough transactions that you have to hire a second accounting person or whatever it is, that you actually would have made a profit margin on accounting, versus the other side, you were going to lose from something else. We just think like that in every business. If we can do this, we'll pay the $50,000 to get a call center up. You don't have to go get a call center up, right? That way, now you're paying $2,500 and it's already plugged and played, right? We already know the data center. We know where to go get the data, how to go get the best leads, how to scrub them. We already do it for you. You don't have to go figure it out. But if you want, you can go do it. But the cost is the cost. The cost is the same. We've just shortcutted it for you. So now we can plug those two things together. You don't have to spend a lot of bandwidth to go put in $50,000 to now you're in the call center business, right? You want a call center. You don't need a call center business. That's just we know people are going to be inquisitive and figure that out. Some people want to have all of those things. We make those decisions too. Sometimes we don't want to own every dumpster, to have a lot where we got to hold them, to pay a truck to drive them. We'll just lease a dumpster for the demo when we need it. We don't want to be in the dumpster business, right? So we just want to set that up as an easy plug and play and move on. And that's what we've done in a lot of these other businesses.
Amazing. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your story. I know I learned a lot and I grabbed a lot of values, but I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man. Thank you so much.